Let's continue on the story with totally not Sparkle. Meanwhile,
We're back to where it all began.
yes, please explain me
You
how
entered the
what
golden
the
hour
hell
from
going
this place.
on with the Firefly.
And it is also from here where you will enter the true Penacony.
Land of the
It is a
Exiles.
pleasure to journey alongside you once more. But it's time I laid bare the entire truth before you. As you might have heard, I also go by another name. Stellaron Hunter Sam.
Why are you pausing so much? Are you alright? Are you Firefly's soul? Let's go with
I
that.
know you have many questions. Do you remember when we encountered death in that strange dreamscape? When I was caught by that meme?
Does she mean the first time or the second? The second time she got killed. Remember when we encountered death? I think she means the first time.
In that instant before it killed me,
Or not.
I saw the reflection of another dreamscape in its ghastly pupils.
So she's talking about the second time where she died. Okay.
So, following the clues in the script, I came up with some theories about the meme. That's why I instructed Silverwolf to issue invitations, drawing everyone to the Dreams Hotel.
Okay.
I intended to call upon death before you arrived, to solve the riddle using more direct means.
Wait, so she's talking about the first time. But you weren't killed in the first time. What do you mean in the instant before it killed me?
And then invite you to join. However, contrary to my wishes, I couldn't defy the script. And I didn't get a chance to explain it to you. It is how you see now. I was impaled by the bladed wings of death. The heavy pressure of concentrated memoria miasma
Wait.
exploded in my mind as if it was actually reality.
Is that how it kills? It like injects you with memoria?
But after the momentary numbness subsided, I found that my body was absolutely unscathed.
I'm confused.
I was still alive. And it was just as I thought. I had arrived at a place starkly different from this beautiful dream. Beneath the dreamscape of Penacony lies another, more chaotic, more primal memory zone. Its name? Land of the Exiles.
So it doesn't... Wait, oh, okay, I think I'm starting to get... It doesn't kill you. It kinda puts you to sleep inside the dreamscape. So you essentially go to an even deeper dreamscape, which is the Land of the Exiles. And since both of them are a dreamscape, you kind of just disappear from the top one, and you go to the beneath one, the lower one. Is that it? And because she has the suit, she probably has the ability to kind of just get out of there if she wants. Whereas the other ones who are normal people didn't have that ability, and they just probably stuck there still.
And so, then I returned to the hotel in the dreamscape, hoping to tell you of its existence. Yet I could not reveal my own identity. So
Why not?
I could only divert your party's attention and lure you away from the battlefield. And after, all my attempts proved futile. It wasn't until not long ago when a crimson blade of light shattered the high wall of the dream, causing you all to fall far into the abyssal depths of the dreamscape.
Is that...
That I was able to awaken you and your companions one by one.
So that's why we weren't present when the Dream Maker was talking with Acheron, because we fell. Okay. I guess that means that Aventurine also fell.
And that's it. That is all that's happened so far.
And I imagine Robin also fell. I'm completely confused. No, I'm kind of getting it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I want to say I completely understand. I get it. It's a little bit of a weird plot line. I guess it also makes sense with what Ratio gave to Aventurine. The only thing you can't do, the impossibility in the dreamscape is to, was it stillness? Something to do with not being able to go to sleep or something. So I imagine the dreamscape is like you're semi-awake, semi-sleeping, and then the bottom one, the underneath layer is when you're really in a deep sleep. Sure.
I know it's tough to believe all this without reservations. I just want to say, you are very close to the final answer. Just one more thing needs to be done. And then I can prove it to you.
This also makes a little bit more sense as to why she's finally revealing it to you out of nowhere. You're finally at the place where she's at, but I don't really understand what she means, like she couldn't reveal her identity before.
Now,
I don't fully understand the
let's leave
script
this place.
Concept.
Please
Like, is
close
she
your
an
eyes.
I know she is an artificial human, because they mentioned it. They mentioned Sam was created. Was an artificial human. Is she, like, kind of an AI? Or, like, has the brain of an AI? She has to follow a certain script, and she can't really deviate it from it?
Take a deep breath and visualize the dreamscape's outline in your heart. And remember, you must not open your eyes at all times.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
What's this? Okay, everything is moving. Oh, the entrance. Okay. Direct entrance to the Stellaron.
Go ahead.
Doing your best to choose the right path for yourself.
Can I be
among
honest?
countless possibilities.
This part of the story is very
Even with
boring.
limited insight and judgment.
I was finding the other part was
I don't know what
much
you've
more
been
interested than
But
this.
I agree that let's make a big scene.
Feels like they need to stretch for the story using Boot Hill and Den Hang. I don't know if it's because they want to stretch the story or if it's because they want to introduce this character, but they don't. Because of the setting of the story, they found themselves in kind of a plot trap where they can't actually put him reasonably in the story. Like, because, like, in my opinion, Boot Hill's entire character doesn't even make sense in this context where they're just talking and talking and talking. Boot Hill, for me, feels like a character where is a character of action. So you'd see him, like, fighting enemies and, doing what he's about to do, which is cause conflict. So, like, it would make more sense if he was already in the dream, wreaking havoc. But because they introduced him as an outsider, as someone who is, outside a dream who's trying to get in, it comes into this problem where it's like they're having a difficulty getting him into the dream to cause the havoc. And so instead we're just getting this amount of just talking, which isn't really relevant because it's either just them repeating points which have already been stated or repeating points which have been disproven already. They don't know about it, but we know about it as a reader, and it's not interesting, it's just boring.
Remember the old man we met earlier? Without this dream, he might have completely lost himself.
Yeah, but he's an exception. Right? At the end of the day, he's an exception. Most people are not gonna be like him.
That might be true, but even without Penacony, he could have chosen another path. As far as I know, the Intelligentsia Guild has been promoting their rehabilitation techniques for a long time now. That path may have been more ordinary and challenging, but now he's in a comatose state. And this sweet dream has become sort of end-of-life care. His fate is sealed.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Technically speaking, and not even technically speaking, this is a fact, he is old. He is basically already near his death, right? He's old. We all grow old and we all die eventually. This is just how reality works. This is called mortality. So it's not like his fate is sealed because now he's bedridden and in the simulation. His fate is sealed the moment he is born because he is going to die one day. Now that he is close to his death, it makes sense that he wants to kind of live in a simulated reality where he can kind of do whatever he wants, because otherwise he is stuck in a body that can't do everything that he wants.
Is Penacony granting these people a future? Or is it taking it away from them?
The problem is when you have people who have healthy bodies and relatively healthy minds, and you are essentially shoving them into a virtual reality and causing them to get addicted to it, and then they can't let go of it. They become trapped to it, they become obsessed with it, whereas if they didn't have that, they might have been able to figure out their life and continue to walk forward.
Well, don't forget this. Not everyone really has a future.
That is also a good argument. Not everyone has a future. Some people are just very unlucky.
The future for humanity is like the sky for birds. People mistakenly believe that flight is inherent to birds because they've never witnessed those birds crashing to their death.
As someone who owns birds, this is actually very real. It's very surprising the amount of times I've had people ask me, like, what is the average lifespan of my birds? And I tell them the average lifespan, and they get surprised that it's so large. I think it's like 5 years to 15 years, which is a pretty large, weird range of years to have for a bird, especially a bird that like a budgie, which generally you don't see them live that long. But the reality is that budgies, animals are just like humans, or humans are just like animals. When you grow old, one of the biggest dangers for old people is falling, because when you fall as a young person, most likely your bones are going to be fine. And even if you do break something, your body can heal it up. If you fall as an elderly person, your bones will likely break or dislocate. And if they do, your body will not be able to heal them properly. And that can lead to, I wouldn't say nowadays it's no longer a death sentence, but that can lead to a lot of complications and generally will lead to a worse lifestyle. Now, imagine that with birds, where as they grow older, they have the same issues, which is they can no longer regenerate as well, and they no longer can heal their bodies as well. Additionally, their bones are more fragile, and add the fact that they fall from a big height because they fly. Additionally, had the fact that generally when they fall from the sky, that generally means it's because they hit something. So they hit a wall or they hit a tree. And yeah, it's normal for birds to have to actually die when they crash. Actually, that happened recently. I think like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I had my bird for some reason crashed against the wall. Because I have my bird like free. Like my bird is free in the living room. He has his cage that normally has his door open. We only close it during the night, and during the day it's open. So he kind of just flies around and does whatever he wants. And he, unfortunately, I don't know why he did that, but he just kind of crashed against the wall and fell. And he was stunned for a good amount. Like, I picked him up, he was very confused, and he stayed stunned for like half an hour. Just kind of dazed, didn't really know what happened. Now, my budgie right now I think is around 4 to 5 years old. I can't really remember too much, but I think it's 4 or 5 years old. So they're starting to reach a danger zone, right? Because the average lifespan for birds is for budgies is like 5 and 50. So starting to get that into that range. But yeah, some birds, a lot of people, for some reason, but it always all of this came from the fact, like, a lot of people really do not understand the idea that birds can actually just fall because they crash into their the idea that birds can crash to their death. A lot of people actually don't seem to compute that. Every time I explain to them that the reason why the birds have such a wide range of lifespan is because, you know, the fact that they can fall and die means that they can actually die very young, despite the fact that they can live for much longer. Right, it's not the same as, you know, it's kind of similar to how horses have the same issue, right? If a horse falls and breaks a leg, that horse is done. Like, very unlikely the horse will recover. And it's kind of the same thing with birds. If a bird falls, they're probably going to break a wing or a foot. And birds can handle losing a foot, but they can't handle losing a wing. And they're basically just dead at that point.
Do you remember how we took in
I don't know
that
why
little
I suddenly
charming dove
became
when we were young?
started talking about birds. I like birds.
Yeah. We took care of it. Provided food and water, groomed its feathers. And later, when I decided to leave Penacony, I opened the cage and set it free.
I like trains.
Well, I didn't mention what happened to it in my letters because I didn't want to upset you. Shortly after you left, it crashed to its death right in front of your window.
No. It tried to get back in. That's the dangers with domestic. That's why specialists always tell you, like, don't give food to wild animals. Don't domesticate wild animals, because if you do, they'll start seeking humans. And this bird was domesticated, essentially was tamed, was a wild animal, and you know, they treated it, you know, with as much love and care as they could. And the consequence of that was the bird could not forget them. And when it was freed, it wanted to go back to them and just fly straight into the window and died. Oh god. This is a reality. This is actually a very true reality of domesticating wild animals.
I had surmised as much. I knew you wouldn't have avoided mentioning the bird for no reason. Despite that unfortunate outcome, I still believe it was the right decision. Birds aren't meant to spend their lives in cages. They belong in the sky, even if they can't fly.
This is one of the situations where I would actually disagree. I actually disagree with Robin, right? Essentially, the situation is this, right? In her particular circumstances, what they should have done is simple. If they wanted to help the bird, they should have sought professional help, right? So they should have reached people that do this for a living, so they know what they're doing. Now, since they didn't do that, they should take responsibility for the fact that they domesticated a wild animal, which means that they shouldn't release it. End of story. It doesn't matter if it's a bird or a wild animal and thus needs to be free. You took it in, you domesticated it, now it can't live in the wild. it is irresponsible to now free it to its death. It's as simple as that. This is why professionals will always tell you, do not feed wild animals, do not domesticate them, do not try to, help wild animals yourself. If you find a wild animal, seek professional help, because otherwise you're probably gonna do more harm than good.
But here's the thing. If there are birds in this world that can never fly, can we really assert that they belong in the sky?
I mean, technically speaking, there are birds that actually can't fly. There's a lot of flightless birds.
Are you implying that the same goes for humans too?
Does the same apply to humans? Kinda. There is a very good argument to... I don't know if I want to enter these topics, though. This is a little bit too political if I start talking about humans. It's one thing with animals, because they're a lot more... There's very clearly established rules with animals. It's not as clear with humans, because there's a lot of muck with humans, because human rights and human liberties and human selfishness and all that. So I won't talk about humans. But does the same apply for humans? I do think the same applies for humans. I do think that there's a lot of people that do help other fellow humans with good intentions. And they don't understand that what they're... It's not that they shouldn't help, it's that the methods they are using to help are doing more harm than good. Either because they are causing those humans to become dependent on them, or because they're, providing... A very typical one of something that happens is when doctors just give drugs to their patients because the patients are feeling down, and then those patients become addicted to those drugs, when the reality is the doctors maybe should have recommended them to seek some psychological help from a therapist.
Let's take the Astral Express as an example. The Nameless made tremendous efforts to bridge worlds, gaining fame across the universe. However, only a few extraordinary individuals can endure such a perilous journey. That's because the pursuit of the Trailblaze exceeds the capabilities of ordinary humans. Otherwise, why would this path be filled with broken rails, an abandoned express, and even a fallen eon?
That's just sophistry. If that were true, then only the powerful would have the right to determine the future.
I don't actually... curse my English vocabulary. What is sophistry? Sophistry. The use of clever but false arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving. Trying to argue that I had benefited in any way from disaster was pure sophistry. Okay. A fallacious argument. Okay, so I'm kind of understanding. So it's like it's a false argument.
Unfortunately, that's exactly what happens. Another name for the future is self-value. While this world has its fair share of heroes who inspire people and garner admiration for their heroic deeds, the majority of ordinary people will never become heroes in their lifetime.
And that's good. 99% of the population does not want to be heroes, and if they think they do, they are wrong. Being heroes is not good. Being heroes is not fun. Being heroes is not healthy.
Some are born weak and vulnerable. Some find themselves trapped in unfortunate circumstances. Some fall victim to malice and cowardice. When it comes to survival, everyone is equal. and the weak can only watch as their value gets constantly diminished by external forces.
That's why we should care for the weak and support them as if their suffering were our own. That's what the Odes of Harmony have always taught us.
While the Harmony holds
I just
noble
think this is a very
aspirations,
interesting argument here,
the
though.
strong will always be strong, and the weak will always be weak. Even in this carefree dream. Human nature contains greatness, but it also harbors inherent weaknesses that can't be eradicated.
I think that the best way to look at this is both of them have the same idea, which is harmony. So, like, equality to some degree. But Robin has a much more naive and idealized version of it in her head, whereas Sunday has a much more... I'm not going to say realistic, because I don't think his is entirely realistic. I'd say it's more pessimistic approach to it. But a pessimism that comes from a logical, conclusion. Like, he logically came to these conclusions, even though they are pessimistic in nature.
In the end,
I wouldn't
if people
necessarily
can't
say
even
that
secure their own
what he's saying is,
survival,
like,
they won't care
100%
about
true.
the illusory future of equality. As long as the law of survival of the fittest prevails, there will always be fledglings crashing to their death.
Because, like, the saying about survival of the strongest is that, like, who is the weak is very questionable. There are a lot of moments in history that has shown that just because you are at the top doesn't mean that the people at the bottom can't grab you and start decapitating you. I think the French Revolution is a very good example of that. Although, the French Revolution is also kind of orchestrated by other people at the top, and they kind of just use the population as a weapon. But at the end of the day, it was only possible because the population was bloodthirsty enough to just go bananas. And if the population wasn't at that state, very likely that would have happened.
But if people don't live for the future, do they merely exist for survival?
Yes.
If even you, my brother, don't believe
Well,
that the harmony
not exactly.
will save the weak, then which eon can make our dreams come true?
And it's like, yes, people survive. People exist. People merely exist. Wait, hold on. But if people don't live in for the future, do they merely exist for survival? What? I don't understand this concept. Isn't survival intrinsically about thinking about the future? And hold on, something that doesn't make sense and is counterintuitive. As far as I'm aware, right, survival implies thinking about the future, whereas living well, I guess it depends, right? Because surviving in trauma psychology implies not thinking about the future. No, that's also wrong. When you are surviving, there is no notion that you do not think about the future. In fact, that will entirely depend on what type of survival is. If you are surviving, for example, to pay your rent, right? So, for example, you have to pay your rent every single month. You are thinking about the future. If you are trying to survive with that, you're thinking about your jobs. Maybe you're thinking about changing your job because you need more money. Maybe you're thinking about cutting costs. Maybe you're thinking about going somewhere where the rent is cheaper. Or heck, maybe the other way around. Maybe your rent is really low and you can take some luxuries and you can start spending a little bit more. Maybe you got a raise, so you can think about moving to another place where the rent is slightly more expensive. The idea that, like, you don't live for the future, so they merely exist for surviving. Survival implies thinking about the future. Now, it doesn't always apply, because sometimes you survive for the moment. This is very normal in trauma, for example. People that have trauma, especially family-related, not family-related, but youth related trauma can have difficulty thinking about the future because they are constantly in survival mode. They're trying to just survive the day, so they have a difficulty thinking about what to do the next day. But if you do put them in a situation where they have to survive for a month, or for the next, if you put a deadline on them, like if you don't pay this or you do this till the end of the month, X will happen. They will enter into survival mode where they will actually start thinking about the future. I don't really know where that she's coming here with the just because you don't live for the future, you exist only for survival. Like, survival implies you are thinking about the future. And this applies also to, like, older times. Like older generations, even, like, during the medieval times and before that. They were always surviving, and they were also always thinking about the future. Not all of them, obviously. I don't know what she's trying to get here. I'm really not sure. I don't agree with this sentence. I don't know why this sentence is causing me so many issues. And I don't know why I'm ranting so much. I think it's because it's a very interesting topic. I think that's why I'm ranting so much. I think this is a very interesting topic to see. It's not one you commonly see. At least when I normally see topics like this, they tend to be very surface level. And this is a little bit more complex. It's not like I don't understand what she's saying. I think her sentence is wrong. At least the way it's constructed. I understand what she's trying to say, right? Which is that people shouldn't only exist to survive, and there should be some amount of carefreeness and, you know, pleasure in there that allows people to kind of just unwind. I understand what she's saying. I think the structure of the sentence is wrong. Which might just be a translation error. I have to consider that.
People often forget that when the first bird took flight, the entire world envisioned a future where no more fledglings would ever crash to their death.
When the first bird took flight, they envisioned a world where no more fledglings ever crashed to their death. That doesn't even make sense. When the first one flew, they wouldn't even understand the concept of crashing to your death.
Are you reading, sister? What are you reading?
Mr. Gopherwood gave me a picture book. It's about the story of the harmonic strings.
That's like saying, like, when the first person rode a car, everyone dreamed of a world where no car could ever crash. It's like they didn't even have the concept of car crashes. So how will they even have that dream?
If I could become a chord master, I'd like to summon Dominicus, the harmonious choir. I want to sing with everyone and spread our wishes so that all can feel happiness and joy.
I see. Then I would summon the harmonious choir too.
Don't you?
I'm sorry about the
have a
rant.
wish of your own
It's
for
probably
that?
boring to hear me rant.
Of course I do. It's just that it includes your wish and everyone else's. I long for a true paradise where everyone can find peace.
Then let's build a stage there and invite everyone to our performance so that both our wishes come true through the power of the harmonious choir.
It's a deal then.
I imagine these are both of them talking to each other.
It's a deal. But how can I become a chord master?
Maybe you'll have to become a star first.
Okay, we're back with the main character.
This is indeed surprising to me. The dreamscape is maintained by the collective effort of the 5 families. If someone were to use the Charming Festival to recklessly disseminate the power of the Stellaron, This individual
The Dream Master doesn't even know?
of great authority.
Sunday, you rascal, you worked behind everyone's back.
Later on, Robin and I lived a time with nary a care in the world. One day, after dinner, while my younger sister and I were lounging about in Mr. Gopher Wood's yard, we spotted a fledgling Charmony dove all on its own. That baby bird was tiny. It didn't even have all of its feathers, and it couldn't sing. When we found it, it was already on its last breath, having fallen into a shrub, probably abandoned by its parents. We decided to build a nest for it right there and then. However, thinking back, that winter was unusually cold, with fierce winds at night in the yard, not to mention the many poisonous bugs and wild beasts in the vicinity. It was clear that if we left the fledgling in the yard, it stood no chance of surviving until spring. So, I suggested we take it inside, place it on the shelf by the window, and asked the adults to fashion a cage for it. We decided that when it regained its strength enough to spread its wings, we would release it back into the wild. The tragic part, something that we'd never considered, was that this bird's fate had already been determined long before this moment.
What? Why is it determined?
Its destiny was determined by our momentary whim.
Which one? Well, no. If you didn't help it, it was dead. So... That legitimately doesn't even make any sense. Just okay, hold on. Evaluate the situation, remove your whim. In other words, you decide to not help it, it dies. There you go. You helping it doesn't change it, did not determine its destiny.
No, I pass the power of choice to you all. Faced with this situation, what choice would you make? Stick to the original plan, and build a nest with soft net where the Charmony dove fell.
What's the point of it? If the parents don't know where it is and can't feed it, it's just gonna starve to death.
Or build a cage for it, and feed it, giving it the utmost care from within the warmth of a home.
As someone who has a bird, it's to build the cage. However, you know, if there was a third option, I'd just take it to experts.
I eagerly await your answer.
Yeah, I will build a cage for it. Like, I know the answer to this. It doesn't matter. Like, I have had animals. I have animals. One animal right now. Give it utmost care within the warmth of a home. Yeah, because otherwise it just dies.
I'm happy to see that you made a choice similar to ours. If your mind is made up, let me reveal the outcome of this choice.
No, we didn't. I did not make a similar to yours because you chose to release it, which was the mistake.
We passionately nursed it back to health, preparing only the best food for it every day. We even preened its feathers. Later, on the day that Robin left Penacony, we opened the cage door and let it fly back into the sky.
See, this is where I have a problem. You should have not let it go. I understand that the whole idea you took it in was to take care of it so that you can release it back into the wild, but that type of procedure, well, there's a procedure to this. There's a methodology to this. You can't just release a wild animal that's been tamed and hope it survives. You have to slowly and steadily train it to survive in the wild. And if you're not up to that, you know, and you decide to still take care of it, you have to take responsibility for taking care of it. So you chose to take it home and build a cage so that it can survive. You keep it until it dies or you die.
I watched it for a long while by the window, probably about 3 or so days. In those 3 long days, The little Charmony dove tried again and again to spread its wings to fly into the sky, but fell to the ground, only to keep trying.
Wait, so you released it when it couldn't even fly?
Finally, on the 137th attempt, it succeeded. But its attempt did not go perfectly. After flying unsteadily for a while, it fell to the ground, unable to grasp the direction of the air currents. The fall shattered its wings.
Oh my god, they're just
It
bad
writhed helplessly in my
caretakers.
embrace. But it was all for naught. Finally succumbing to a painful
Oh
demise.
my god, this is painful to hear.
And in that instant, our tender care, our given love and hopes, they all became the inevitable push that sent it to its death.
You released a bird, a wild bird, that has been not domesticated, that has been tamed into the wild before he was even able to fly. Now that is stupid. That is neglect at its finest.
I deeply regret the choices we made.
Which ones?
Next, let us head to the second decision. This time, it's the story of a dream chaser. This story happened when I was appointed as Bronze Melodia, a position exclusive to the Oak family, charged with listening to the problems and vexations of Dreamscape residents, and providing them with the relevant guidance. It was during that period that I had the opportunity to hear voices from all corners of the Dreamscape. Joy, sorrow, arrogance, regret. The complex tapestry of human nature that formed the world. And I was fortunate to catch a glimpse of it.
Sorry about that.
He was a dream chaser and an illegal stowaway. Just like the rest of them, he came to Penacony in search of a better life. Except that, to most people, the price he paid.
Was he the one
I suppose you
who
could say
sold
it
his
was
children?
Everything. He told me. I sold everything I could at home. The house, the land, even his 2 children. He said he could not afford to raise them, and that at least they could eat if they lived as slaves.
Wait, there's something wrong here. How could they be having issues with eating when he has a house and a land? It's like, okay, you have a house, I can understand you having difficulty not having food, but you also have land? This is not a poor person.
He had a plan in place. He would buy back his children once he had made his fortune, and enjoy Penacony's beautiful dream with them. Alas, his plan to smuggle himself was somewhat clumsy, and he was sniffed out by those pig-headed hounds. After hearing the Dream Chaser's story, I immediately appealed to the Bloodhound family to cease their pursuit. That way, at least he could live peacefully. But I was still too naive to the ways of the world. I did not anticipate that what I thought was a kind gesture
Yeah, I could see where
would
this
later
is,
lead to
might go.
dire consequences. I'll tell you the outcome soon. For now, I'd like you all to make a choice. Will you do as I did, and try to convince the Bloodhound family to stop their pursuit, so that the Dream Chaser may live peacefully and realize his wishes? Or will you remain silent, leaving him to languish while the hounds are hot on his heels, until his inevitable judgment arrives.
I'll be honest.
I look forward to everyone's decisions. Who knows? Perhaps they might even alter the outcome of this tragedy.
So, this is an interesting one, is it? Oh, hello. This one's a little bit more complex. Although the complexity comes from naivety. At the end of the day, I don't think that whatever happens to the person responsible to the dude, it matters. Like, at least not in my brain, it matters. It's one of those situations where it's like, I don't really care what his fate is. In his position, I would be more worried about the 2 kids that the guy sold. Like, that would be what goes through my mind first. If I was in his position, I would probably convince the Bloodhounds to cease the pursuit. And I would also, like, go and look, you know, investigate the situation with the kids and maybe try and put them in a better situation. That would be my gut instinct. Then after that, depending on, you know, whether or not the man lied or not, and whether or not what he did afterwards, I could choose to enforce the law or to continue to cease. It's not a... That's just kind of the problem with these choices. Life is not made of choices. Life is made of very complex net of choices, not a singular choice. You can make a choice and then halfway change that choice to a different one because you have new information that invalidates your previous choice. Life is not just black and white. There's a lot of complexity to it. Regardless, my gut feeling... I still... Maybe I am just a naive person. I feel like I still would rather believe in someone's goodwill than in believe that they are garbage. Even though, most likely than not, they are garbage. Ugh. Sure. Tell me what happened.
I'm honored to witness you arriving at the same decision. Out of respect, I'll share with you the dire consequences that my choice back then brought about. First, the outcome. He attained major success. After avoiding capture, he ran a business for a few years, very quickly making a name for himself, elevating his status. He might not have become a tycoon like old Audie, but he was considered a character of excellent repute.
He never came for the kids, did he?
Now then, did he realize the wish he set out to achieve? No. The last time I saw him was in the real world, where the hounds were going to permanently exile him, and I was the accompanying Bronze Melodia. The mission was simple. Listen to the criminal's repentance. He told me the reason he was in this predicament was because he conspired to usurp the head of the Alfalfa family. When I asked him about his 2 children, he instead responded with a question. What children?
That's why you investigate this stuff.
In the end, my heart aligned with the harmony, and the good deed I dared to undertake held no value.
No.
Turning instead into a wrongdoing. It created a lamentable oppressor and countless oppressed individuals.
It's not... Hold on. It's not a good deed that held no value. It held value. You learned a lesson. This is experience. Everyone does mistakes. It's understandable for someone to, you know, want to do what they feel is the correct answer, what they feel is right to do. And sometimes you are blinded by naivety, and you don't think that perhaps that might be deception. But just because you are deceived does not mean that your decision held no value. There was value in it, even if it might have been a value that you didn't want to.
As to your choice, I once again offer my heartfelt apologies. Next comes the third and
At the end of the day,
decision.
every choice you make has to come with a responsibility of you taking the choice. You can't just be like, oh, god damn it, if only I hadn't made that choice, and you just start regretting
And the
forever.
story this time
It's like,
is my own.
you make a choice, it doesn't work out, you suck it up and you move on. You accept the mistakes and you just keep on walking.
This story happened the day I was appointed the Oak family head. At that time, Mr. Gopherwood was the current Dream Master. And as per his wish, we had a private conversation. What surprised me was that the Dream Master had only come to deliver a letter to me. He let me read its contents, and it was a letter from my sister.
Okay.
The letter contained the usual pleasantries, anecdotes from her travels, nothing out of the ordinary. Just as I started wondering how this letter related to our discussion, the Dream Master began to speak.
Do you know who wrote this letter?
My sister, of course. But why would you personally visit me to hand me a letter from my sister containing mere trivialities?
To help you grasp the full scope of this issue. Do you know where Robin is at this moment?
From what the letter indicates, she must be in Caspelina 8, correct? She's touring there right now.
Correct. Has she mentioned anything about a stray bullet?
Wait, what?
A stray bullet? What?
A war has broken out on that planet. It is because of this very reason that Robin chose this destination. To spread the word of the Harmony. And to save the lives of that planet. She personally made for the front lines.
That is admirable.
She hoped to ease the people's suffering with song, and was willing to brave mortal danger to deliver the IPC's medical supplies. Unfortunately, stray bullets show no such compassion.
I completely forgot that this part dialogue is very long. Yes.
Is she alright?
If the operation
I might
is
have to stop
successful, she
halfway
should
through the
probably be
dialogue and just
recovering
continue tomorrow.
in the field hospital. By the eon above, the bullet struck her neck
Wait, what?
directly, yet possibly as a reward for her consistent deeds of harmony. It didn't hit any vital arteries. Once you've attended
Wait,
to
huh?
outstanding tasks, it'd be advisable to write her back as soon as possible.
Hold on. Hold on. This raises a couple of questions. It hit her neck, which would kind of explain that she couldn't speak. Like that her voice isn't proper now. My question is this the Dream Master lying so that when she shows up with her voice, you know, not being proper, you know, Sunday is just gonna think, oh, this must be because of the bullet, and not think because, you know, the harmony is wrong. That might be what this is. Of course, he doesn't know any about this.
Damned savages!
Holy shit.
I'll pack my bags right away. My gratitude for bringing this to my attention, Mr. Gopherwood. Now you understand why she always wears such elaborate neck ornaments, don't you?
How could this happen? Miss Robin.
It's all in the past, so please don't worry. I share this in the meager hope that you will understand the Harmony's limitations and predicament. As grandiose as the strong defending the weak sounds, many times, it is nothing more than wishful thinking.
Okay, but why are you saying this? This is not something you should be saying. At the end of the day, the question should be made for Robin. Does she regret going there? If she says no, then who cares? Yeah, sometimes tragedy happens, even to the
Likewise.
best of people.
I've prepared one last question, one last choice. But rest assured, this choice will not have any grave consequences. Because this is merely a figment of imagination. A nightmare that has haunted me through countless nights.
What if she had died?
If you ever had the opportunity to make a choice like I did, would you still support Robin's journey on the path of harmony?
If it is her choice, then all I can do is support her. Like, this is a no-brainer. I'm sorry. It is not other people's place to choose what other people want to do in their life.
I see. I am now aware of everyone's stances. Raising these questions merely serves to illustrate one point. The plight of Penacony cannot be salvaged by the harmony. The true foundation for a sweet dream paradise can only be established through the order, where the strong govern the weak.
And who's the strong and who's the weak? Because as far as I'm concerned, all of these questions you've been showing have just presented you as the weak. You're the weak right now. You regret every decision you've made. Your will is extremely low.
Tormented.
Your ego is
The
broken.
turmoil of losing your way. How sorrow and even despair set in when matters don't work out. All of this causes me unending pain. Because this is not what happiness is at all. We must teach the weak how to live a happy life. And this life isn't
start by
some
yourself.
noble
Teach yourself to
propriety
live
that
a
the
happy
upper crust
life.
preaches, but in definitive terms, a way of survival that belongs to everyone.
So what is your definition of living a happy life?
Good question. Human consciousness is fundamentally an illusion, a cage known as self-worth. People lured in by this illusion make mistakes, yet still ask that external influences bear the burden. When one mistake after the next permeates the masses, they become impossible to trace. Thus, the amassing of these individual cages culminate to form a prison. A place dictated only by the rule of survival of the fittest. Nature is always accompanied by predation and sacrifice. Its antithesis is known as order. That is what I want to do. Unite people's happiness under the banner of order. They won't need to make bitter choices any longer, nor face the weaknesses of humanity. They can cast aside their primal instincts to build a haven for mankind. Simply describing thoughts is far too abstract, so allow me to provide a simple example. As you all may know, there are societal norms like weekends and long weekends that exist on some worlds.
Yes. They
During
are religious
these
in...
hard-earned
Are
rest
they
days,
religious?
people are given the chance to extricate themselves from the stresses of everyday life, allowing a certain tranquility to return to their souls.
I don't want to talk about that because I don't know I know the whole, like, Sunday. I know Sunday, at least, is religious in nature. You know, the whole point is you don't work on Sunday because Sunday is the day where you worship God or something like that. The original, at least. Saturday, I think, was added later on. Much later on, as another weekend. I don't know enough about the topic to make comments about this, though. I wouldn't necessarily say, though, I think that nowadays it is true, like, you do have weekends, which is kind of, you know, just relief of the stress. And, I mean, there are certain countries who are trying to increase the weekend size, so instead of only 2 days in a week, only 2 days per week or a weekend, they're trying to increase it to 3 days.
And it is only on these days that people do not have to adhere to the law where the strong prey on the weak.
What?
They can live out their lives happily during these brief intermissions.
That is bullshit.
It's just a pity that 2 or 3 days are still too fleeting compared to the span of a lifetime.
Where are you getting this idea that during the weekend the strong don't prey on the weak? Oh, you mean strong can only prey on the weak during the work? You mean outside of work they can't prey on the weak? Like, what is this nonsense I'm hearing?
From where I stand, society's ideal system should be 7 rest days. Following Sunday, there should ensue a second, a third, and indeed an infinite procession of Sundays. This should be the face of the new world.
In an ideal world where
peaceful
resources are infinite, sure. We do not exist in such a world, unfortunately. Resources are finite, thus you must spend your time gathering them to survive. Be it food and water, or money to buy food and water.
And thus, every person can return to their base selves in this utopia. Some gaze in reverence at the stars,
His
pouring their
text
whole beings into
cut away.
calculating the distance between us and the isolated world of Pagana. Meanwhile, some seek refuge in quiet corners, holding one another, unencumbered by the chains of unwelcome obligations. There would be no need to bear the hardships of reality. Only in this way can humanity face the inevitable end with the purest of spirit, living a life of dignity. This is what it is to live in bliss. Miss Firefly, you who are stricken with entropy loss syndrome, you of all would surely understand this.
It sounds like a flawless theory.
No it doesn't. What? It sounds like a very flawed theory.
But what is the price to attain all this?
And that is also another very good question. What is the price for it? Everything has a price. What's the price for this eternal bliss?
The cost is minute, merely a personal and eternal
Oh
sacrifice.
yeah, eternal sacrifice, just what I
If this
needed.
paradise is to be maintained for everyone, someone must remain trapped in solitary awakening until the end of the cosmos.
Aren't you just describing a god?
Awakening. Which means that this so-called paradise is still a dream. Stepping into this paradise means forsaking reality, correct?
It is not forsaking, but transcending. Flesh, blood, sorrow,
That's
weakness.
not even my issue.
If the physical
It's
is
like,
the root of spiritual suffering, it is only logical that we defeat it.
that's not even my issue. My issue is, okay, someone has to be awake to maintain that dream. How can we be sure that that someone will not change their mind and screw up the dream? How can we be sure that that someone will be able to maintain themselves for, you know, the remainder of that dream? Like, if someone has to be awake, who is that someone? And is that someone capable of even maintaining the dream? A lot of good questions to make. Now, if his intention is to put a god in there, you know, that is limitless, then I guess that can work. Maybe.
But in this supposed bliss, people won't have defeated their demons. The chance to overcome their tribulations would be forever lost to them. In other words, it is an escape.
That's another way of understanding it. But there is no shame in escape.
We're just gonna
On
go
the
straight into
contrary,
combat, aren't we?
The seeds of escape exist in everyone's hearts.
Wait, I just realized there was a moment where I was making choices. I could have quit there. And I didn't.
Don't you agree,
I was
Miss
stupid.
Firefly? And as for why life slumbers, It is because we are afraid
I was so
to
invested in
awaken
the
from our
story
dreams.
narration that I lost myself. I wanted to keep going.
But this is not in conflict with the grand plan. Only in acknowledging this can we truly understand the frailty of human nature. And from there, show compassion and protection.
I admit that you are a born leader.
I don't know about that one.
Your perspective on humanity brims with
No, he
pessimism.
has leader qualities.
Yet you express compassion for all,
Yeah, but he is a pessimist.
even when your heart pities them. But unlike you, I live for the self. From my perspective, individuals making choices for themselves is their birthright. The want to escape may be innate in the weak. But whether they are weak or not, it is not up to another to decide. Perhaps in your mind, you also view me as weak? Because I don't think so.
Since Miss Firefly has said her piece, the Astral Express will also naturally give you our answer. We'll leave it to you. Just as Mr. McHale instructed before. Tell him our choice.
I think we're gonna go into climax now. What is this? Not long ago.
What is this place?
Does
What is
this
this?
place ring any bells, Misha?
Also, did she just say just as McHale instructed?
I don't know. But I feel a sense of deja vu. What is this place?
It's the realm within a dream bubble. This was left to the Astral Express.
Oh yeah,
by
I
Nemus,
never
but
saw what
weirdly,
happened in
when
the
we
dream
entered
bubble.
It was completely empty. Dr. Edward from the Dreamscape sales store told me that dreams are formed from memories, and a dream bubble can't take shape if its core is empty. So I thought you might be able to help us in unraveling this mystery, Misha. As a hotel doorman, you know Penacony best among us.
I don't know much about dream bubbles. But if you want to figure out what this mansion is, I'll do my best.
I'm counting on you then.
Himeko, I still don't get it. Why were you so sure that Misha had a connection with this dream bubble?
I wasn't sure. It was just a hunch. But since Misha feels familiar with this place, my hunch might be correct.
This place looks a bit familiar.
Exactly.
Now this is the
This
rooms
is
we
where
couldn't
you
escape.
And Firefly encountered death,
Yeah.
which we now know as dormancy. Considering its connection to Dreamflux Reef, it's not surprising it appeared here. The question now is, who brought you here? Based on the clues we have so far, it's unlikely to be that masked fool. So identifying them is crucial to us. We're drawing closer to the truth once more. Let's give Misha some time, as I believe he'll unveil the secret of this dream bubble.
All right, but there are doors all over the place. Which one should we choose?
Come on, give me
Do
control,
you have
please.
any idea, Misha?
Yes. Let me make a choice.
I guess... maybe this way?
Give me control. Yes. Okay. Okay, we're gonna end here. We're gonna stop here because we are I feel like we're close to the climax. I mean, I already feel like we're in not the climax, but we're like at the tip and we're about to descend. So considering I don't have that much time left, we're gonna stop here and we'll continue tomorrow because otherwise... Oh, can I not quit? I can pause and save. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that because otherwise I just don't have time. So tomorrow we'll continue with this. We'll do... Yes, I know, it's kind of laughable, but I didn't actually expect we were going to go straight for the final boss. So Sunday is the final boss, or at least he seems like he's the final boss. It might be Dream Master, the final boss, and Sunday's like the boss before that. But so far, although I am kind of being not contradicting, like clashing a lot with Sunday's ideas, I do actually like Sunday. I think he's a very compelling character. I can see why people were very excited when Sunday was revealed as a playable character. Even though I disagree with some of his notions and some of his ideals, I think that that's fine. I'm not someone who dislikes someone just because they have different opinions. And I like it. He brings a lot of interesting, thought-provoking questions. Even if the conclusions he might arrive are not things that I agree, they're still things that I can understand why he came to those conclusions. I can understand why he has that mentality. And it's also, like, even if I don't agree with them, I could see myself agreeing if I had different experiences in my life. Regardless, though, I really like Sunday. I might actually roll for him, which is bad because I also want Tingyu. And I also want Aventurine and Acheron, so I might be, my options in gacha might be cut off for me. We'll see if I'm lucky with the gachas when they come out. We'll see, we'll see. Regardless, though, we're gonna end for now. We'll continue tomorrow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait. No, not 4 yet. 4, 5.